To the next one, and this one
What is it,
is
7?
Yep, 7 is a waste ordinance. It's in the language now, but basically it comes down to is people walking their dogs and not cleaning up after them, and as the snow melted, it
What's
was
in
nasty.
the language right now?
Oh, I don't know.
The city ordinance at this point does not adequately address. You don't have a pet waste ordinance. In
No,
the city.
there's no pet waste
There
ordinance.
are pieces of
This
the
and that.
nuisance ordinance. There are pieces of there's like a cats and dogs chapter.
Yeah, but there's no real spelled out in.
But there's nothing addressing what you're talking about in a direct way.
Yeah.
So
So I was looking at.
So you think this is something that's important to?
I mean, develop the ordinance, develop a draft ordinance, and send it up to the city commission for their consideration.
Right.
I mean, that's a role of this committee.
Part of what
I'm certainly not against it. My concern is always with enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I hate passing ordinances. We have the can't put your garbage out to the curb more than a day in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have the pigeon ordinance. We have all this stuff that is the only time they're ever enforced is if somebody doesn't like somebody else. And then they target them with this. They're never generally
somebody sloppy, your neighbor's sloppiness, and so forth, which is kind of what an ordinance is for, in that respect.
Yeah, but they're never fairly enforced, and that's a real concern of mine. I'm not saying that we don't need this. I'm not saying that I don't notice it too, and I never thought I'd be reading waste matter expelled from the bowels of their pet.
Steve, I think it's a problem, the challenge of enforcement, and the impact it has on law enforcement and stuff like that.
The fact that we have no ability to anonymously report anything in this town, so your name is immediately drawn up. I have no idea if the blight officer checks email ever or has an email that the public knows about. And so if you do complain about something that is legitimately against our codes, you're branded as a troublemaker and looked down upon, even though you're trying to. That's why either we pass them and enforce them, or we shouldn't bother passing this stuff at all.
Well, it's going to be an ordinance whether it gets policed or not. It's not, but it's there. So if somebody bitches, they can, at least you could say there is an ordinance against it, and you can turn your neighbor in or whatever.
And in reviewing, I want to say I sent out 2 quick examples to you, and in looking over the second one, it's poorly structured. It could be restructured, but it's probably not adequate for what you're trying to do. It's the first sentence conflicts with the second sentence. So I would say focus on example 1. I mean, is this something you want to do? And if not, we can move on.
Is there? I just made a note. Was there something that happened that prompted this? So that
it's more of a general concern. I was hearing from Sam.
Well, I walk a lot, and everywhere I go,
especially as the snow melted off.
Especially as the snow melted off. I mean, it is hard to pick up dog poop in the winter, but
Green Bay is just, they enforce it like you wouldn't.
And it's just everywhere you walk.
You walk. People,
no, it's true.
I think it's this first one, where it says if you don't have a bag or something with you, you can be ticketed, and that's how Green Bay is. You don't leave home without a bag. They really enforce that down there. And I think, again, you have to, at least initially, you've got to make sure you're enforcing it, then people eventually get in the habit, and it should take care of itself.
And the worst one was Norrie Park.
I'll give you that.
Absolutely.
I was down North Park
that was
today,
a bloody disaster.
You
couldn't even walk down the blacktop.
It does not look good. I was down there this afternoon.
And you know me, I always take things one step further. I don't think, obviously, if it's not your dog crapping in somebody, or your dog crapping in somebody else's yard, but I've seen plenty of people's yards where it's their own animals crapping in it, and it's horrible. It's certainly to the point where it's a health hazard. When you get that much feces lying in there.
Ridge Street about, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
That maybe
it was quite an ugly situation.
So, I mean, do we add that to the ordinance too, that you must...
I wouldn't. I would leave this kind of directed where it is. People off their own property.
That was right next door to you.
That's basically what it takes me out, is people walk up down Greenbush, and my yard is covered in dog poop over there that my lawnmower runs into all the time.
So this is set up, I have this in an electronic form. We can tweak the language, we can add the name
of the city of Ironwood. So I guess if we wish to do this, we need a motion to do this ordinance. I mean, it's in there, but it's not spelled out in black.
So what are we looking at? Just considering it in the future, writing it, or
just doing
passing this
on, just making the recommendation?
I like example 2. short, brief.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's covered a lot.
contradictory. If you say no person shall allow an animal to defecate on public and private property other than his own, and then in the next sentence you say, but if the animal does, you already said you're not going to allow that to happen, and then you say, but if it does, then the person owning and having possession, etc. So it's not really. I mean, if you struck the first sentence and said, if any animal defecates on any public property, then you could do it.
No, I think the first example is looks much better. Example 1. On the other hand, I would like part B from the second one added.
The thing I don't like about the first one, we go into an awful lot of detail to try and describe, and I think we verbalize the thing to that.
But if you define your terms,
It covers all the bases.
Yep. Right, covers all the bases.
Exactly.
Yeah, but my God.
Gives the,
and what's the B section here?
That any person accompanied by any animal on public or private property other than his or her own must carry with him or her visible means of cleaning up any fecal matter left by the animal. Done.
So that would go into section 3 of example 1
Yes.
as a separate
Yes.
paragraph, so to speak.
Okay, is this a thing we should look at and bring up next meeting?
That's fine. I mean,
This is, I think,
doesn't bother, whatever.
let's just look at it now, talk about it, and
That's why we
pass
send it
on.
out as part of the mailing
Yep.
list, so
Well,
people
now
have
we're
a chance to
discussing
review
it.
it.
Yep.
I don't know if I don't know how big of a deal it would be, but the exemptions, I don't know. You should still clean up after you.
I thought that visible means was included in that first one.
I mean, if you're a blind person,
I-
it's going to be kind of challenging. but-
Yeah, I know. At least this one doesn't have the parade exclusion in it, so.
And the fines would reference the same. There's a standard set of fines for violations, especially nuisance violations, and it would link to that part of the ordinance. So it would refer to that part of the ordinance.
This is Jim's idea of a municipal court, too.
Did you get those?
I got one, yes, thank you.
So if we add that paragraph under section 3, I'm fine with leaving 4 in.
Say that again, you're
I'm
thinking
just
about.
adding that one paragraph that I said.
We would like to include B in section 3,
Add that to section 3.
requirement for disposal. The
Said
visible
part
means
6
of-
will just reference the standard. It might not be a dollar amount. It might just reference that portion of our other codes.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Okay.
That's used throughout the Code of Ordinances.
Okay. Easier to change at
Or
one
we could
place.
add
than
the-
in
Absolutely,
That,
absolutely.
We could add the one thing in here that another guy told me about this. It says that just teach your dog to wait till he gets to the township.
So there's a dog training element.
Yeah, just train your dog to hold it till he get to the township.
Is it in our jurisdiction to discuss the fine amount, or is that the commission's?
I mean, I could drag it, I could get on the computer and drag it out of the ordinance, but we have, and this is what Steve was just talking about, we have a standard set of fines that, for minor infractions of the ordinance that gets referred to.
Yeah.
And I don't recall off the top of my head, it might be $150 or something. I don't even recall what it is.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I was thinking $20 or something.
First time,
It's more than, well, we wouldn't want to go in that direction and make up a new set of fines just for
Okay,
this.
all right,
I would not
If there's
recommend.
a standard, it'd be,
Yeah.
Where it says all pet owners and keepers are required to immediately and properly dispose of, they read with proper
disposal
immediately
of-
shall mean the pet solid waste is removed at once, and then proper disposal, placement in a designated waste receptacle. Well, if there is no waste receptacle, you're carrying that home. Is that
carry it home, put it in.
Yeah, trust me,
is
that's
that
carried a long
slightly?
way.
Does that need to be tweaked, or am I over legalizing it?